The debate on a proposed minimum wage continued in May, with the Minister for Labour clarifying that the new wage would be announced rather than being implemented in August, as had been suggested. She explained that employers would need time to prepare and to adjust for the changes. Some argued that employers weren't the only ones who need to prepare and that major changes need to happen at the Labour Department as well, ahead of the implementation of the new minimum wage. The Minimum and Equal Wages Commission invited comments and objections on the draft Labour minimum wage order. The draft minimum wage order proposed a minimum wage of $6.50 per hour, or $1,126 per month. June 6th was set as the deadline for the submission of comments and objections regarding the proposed minimum wage.
Minimum wage is not something that you put for everybody in terms of what will you get as your minimum wage as a carpenter or a plumber or a teacher or a policeman. Minimum wage is what government would consider to be the smallest amount of money that somebody is supposed to earn on a monthly basis. And they work it out on an hourly basis. When they give out the figure, they say if you work for 8 hours a day for, let's say 20 days, which is 4 weeks of the month, you should take home X amount of money. And that is what will help you cope with what you really need in terms of your basic needs. So nobody in St. Lucia should earn below that after they have worked for a full month. Now, if you're a carpenter, you're a mason, you're an electrician, these different sectors have a salary that you pay for these. So it means that these people are way above minimum wage, so that does not apply to them.
The proposed figure was set with mixed reactions from the public. Chair of the Minimum Wage and Equal Wages Commission, Lawrence Poyot, explained that the $6.50 per hour figure was not a random figure, but that a host of considerations and factors had informed the proposed figure.
Well, the legislation makes provisions for a period of 21 days for objections. I should also point out that the legislation made no provisions for us to have such a gathering. But in keeping with a decision of the Cabinet of Ministers, whose policy it is to always engage the stakeholders, we decided to facilitate this gathering.
The amount did not sit well with the United Workers' Party either. According to them, the proposed minimum wage of $6.50 per hour was too low and should have been closer to $10. The St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival returned to the Mindu Philip Park in May. The opening night featured regional artists and highlighted Caribbean culture through genres such as soca, reggae, and the Dennery segment. Jazz on the Square also returned to the Derek Walcott Square with some changes. In addition to musical performances, the event also featured artisans and culinary displays. Organizers used the 3-day event to make an important point about leveraging the island's culture to drive business. The World Beats component of the festival also drew significant attention. The much-talked-about show lived up to its name by bringing together diverse artists and genres on one stage. Local saxophonist Augustine Jab Duplessis made a return to the festival stage after a long absence. His performance with a young protege made the festival one to remember. The curtains came down on the 2024 St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival at Pigeon Island on Sunday, 12 May 2024, Mother's Day, with organizers expressing satisfaction with the event. The government of St. Lucia, through the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, also presented Australian pop rock duo Air Supply with a special token of appreciation in acknowledgement of the group's 49th anniversary, which they celebrated at the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. The group also live-streamed the performance to fans across the world on that stage. Despite the rave reviews, the festival was not without its share of controversy. One local church drew heavy criticism after an internal letter chiding members for attending the Kingdom Night event was leaked. The public was also left with questions about the relationship between the government and the St. Lucia National Trust after very public and frank statements by the Tourism and Culture Minister, during a weekly pre-cabinet media briefing, suggested that all was not well between the two sides. The bone of contention: the use of the Pigeon Island National Landmark for mass crowd events, including the Jazz and Arts Festival. The St. Lucia National Trust called for a national dialogue over the use of the Pigeon Island National Landmark as an events venue. Even before that discussion could have been had, there were already suggestions that perhaps the venue had already outgrown the festival and that the time had come to begin looking at alternative sites to host the event finale. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force continued cracking down on illegal firearms in the streets. In May, meanwhile, customs officers were undergoing training in border detection of these weapons. Phase 2 of the US-funded Project Bolt was supposed to help the Customs Department in catching illegal firearms through major ports before they hit the streets. St. Lucia's Director of Public Prosecutions, Dazrin Green, attempted to reassure the media that the backlog of cases plaguing the judiciary was being addressed daily. He promised to call a press conference to update the public on the status of the number of cases, including what had become known as the Impacts case.
There are so many matters, as I indicated on the last time I was interviewed, that we will have a follow-up in about 2 weeks. I will be addressing and inviting the press to a conference to deal with all of these matters that are of public importance.
Police were making headway in a number of cases. The government and civil society organizations were also working hard to tackle crime at the root. One such organization, the Alliance for Community Transformation ACT, launched a number of programs and initiatives to reduce crime and poverty. The move was in response to a surging gun violence, especially in the south of the island. The government also announced that work on the new Northern Divisional Police Headquarters was progressing.
From 2017, you speak about a situation where your men and women and the police force are working in conditions that will not fit for people to work in. I remember coming here in 2021 and visiting the Grosvenor police station and apologizing to the officers for the conditions under which they worked. And from 2017, a government has had that opportunity to improve the conditions of work for these men and women. They refuse to do it.
The $35.9 million initiative was hailed as a vital investment in law enforcement infrastructure, addressing the persistent challenge of insufficient and unsuitable facilities for police personnel. Prime Minister and National Security Minister Philip J. Pierre reported that the new custody suites would be operated by the end of June 2024. In addition, a new police dog was due from Martinique. The National Security Minister outlined a number of other items making up government's national security to-do list, including the commissioning of the Northern Divisional Police Headquarters.
We're also going to be replacing the dogs because next week we are going to be having a new dog from the Martinique police. So I want to tell you that we are committed to improving the welfare of the police in this country. And committed in a way because we believe that the police must transcend all political boundaries. We believe that the police will remain the police in spite of who is in government.
The Royal St. Lucia Police Force received 20 new vehicles in May, inclusive of motorbikes and jet skis to aid their crime-fighting efforts. The Prime Minister and the Minister for National Security emphasized that these new vehicles were not replacements for decommissioned vehicles, but additions to the department's fleet. Extremely dry conditions in May began affecting the water and sewage company's ability to provide a steady water supply. Statements by the company about its challenges and calls for citizens to conserve water were met with incredulity. Some residents expressed frustration over not receiving water for months, while Wasco's tanks were reportedly overflowing. As the dry season continued, the water company continued to experience low production levels on the water supply network. In response to these challenges, Wasco implemented measures to manage the available water supply and to ensure equitable distribution via a valving system. The company said its water scarcity management plan will remain in effect until production levels increased on the network. That did not happen. Days later, following extensive discussions with stakeholder agencies, including the Met Services, the Water Resources Management Agency, and the National Emergency Management Organization, a water emergency was declared.
We wish to announce that this application of a declaration of water-related emergency was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers yesterday. All consumers of potable water of St. Lucia are therefore urged to restrict the use of potable water for non-potable uses.
A list of prohibited uses of water was published as part of the declaration. The Ministry of Health also provided a series of guidelines in response to the declaration of the water-related emergency in order to reduce the possible associated health risks, potential impacts, and provide essential safety measures to mitigate adverse effects. The high temperatures affecting the island also prompted the Ministry of Health to issue a heat advisory for schools. A brief period of rainfall raised residents' hope that the water emergency could be lifted, but, according to WASCO, the rain did nothing to increase water levels at abstraction points, and the water-related emergency remained in effect. May began with Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre calling on mainstream media to do better and to stop spreading misinformation. The challenge followed allegations that 3 prominent figures, including the Prime Minister, were seen being escorted onto a jet by FBI agents. The opposition United Workers' Party, meanwhile, was calling out the government once again for its alleged lack of transparency. This time, it was over details on the planned House of Justice project reported in a Trinidadian newspaper quoting NH International Executive Chairman Emily Elias.
It says that there's going to be a quarterly lease repayment rental that reflects the cost of the building. So that's the 165 million. Plus the transaction fees. We don't know what the lawyer's fees are yet. We don't know what the bank fees, the transaction fees. And bridging interest cost. So the 165 million does not have these 3 other components. So will it go up to 200? Will it go up to 300?
The St. Lucia Labour Party Communication Director, Lisa Jawahir, responded by encouraging the opposition to stick to the facts and to avoid the temptation to twist the Prime Minister's words or misinform the public. Also in May, the head of St. Lucia's Citizenship by Investment program was among several high-profile individuals in St. Kitts and Nevis being named by MSR Media in its claims of unfair competition and corrupt practices in the CIP business in the Caribbean. MSR Media had invited Prime Minister Philip Pierre and Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire to a meeting to discuss evidence pertaining to St. Lucia. MSR Media said the complete lack of action by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Lucia to take steps to address its concerns was what led to the filing of the 2 lawsuits. The government responded to the claims by standing behind the head of the Citizenship by Investment unit. Meanwhile, more details of the lawsuit by MSR Media were being made public. MSR claimed to possess documentary evidence, including bank records and audio messages that substantiated its allegations of corruption and unfair practices in the Citizenship by Investment program in St. Lucia. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, in response to questions relating to St. Lucia's Citizenship by Investment program, continued to defend the integrity of the program.
No one has been filed, nothing has been filed, no one has received anything. No documentation has reached into Claude's hands or into Denzil's hands. It hasn't reached anywhere. This is just paper that you're reading and a man's talking. One man in a civil case. It's like you decide that somebody did you something and you've taken them to court. This has nothing to do with government. This has nothing to do with the U.S. State Department. Nothing to do with the Treasury. Nothing. It's one man, one aggrieved non-governmental actor taking action against other individuals. That's it. That's it. No case has been filed. These are allegations by one man. And you know, when we go ahead and we castigate people's characters, Claude Emmanuel has been found guilty of nothing.
He accused the UWP and its surrogates for colluding with MSR Media to destabilize the country.